wanted to give you an update on what's been going on with our IVF journey. I think we left off on the last video. We found out we had a cyst and it was benign, thank goodness. So we were able to start our stims, or our hormone injections. So Ryan's going to tell you a little about that information.
Okay, well, so now it's October, mid-October. Thanksgiving, the holidays are quickly approaching. Where we left off would have been in mid to late April, probably. So the purpose of this video is to catch you up, let you know what's going on, where we're at, and then also hopefully educate anyone who's seeing the videos and maybe answer some of the questions that you may have. We're gonna try to be as open and detailed as we possibly can be.
Yeah.
So to start the IVF cycle officially, once everything was cleared from the cyst, at that point our doctor released us to start stems. So when they say stems, what does that mean? Basically, that is the mix of medications that cause her body to overstimulate. Hence, it gets shortened to stems. When we say overstimulate, typically the female will release one egg when she goes through her cycle throughout the month. What the IVF process does is basically through these meds, the meds that she was on would be Menopur in the morning and Gonal F in the evening. Mm-hmm. These were injections that were injected into her stomach. The plan is to put some photos over in here that we took along the way to kind of share. So anyhow, these are injections that were done specific times. So 6 a.m. in the morning, we did the Menopur, and in the evening, 6 to 8 p.m. in the evening for the Gonal F. And basically what these drugs are made to do is cause her body to overstimulate and mass produce eggs, because we want the more eggs, the more chances of a baby, right? So that's the goal. So we started the stems, and I don't know, what did you think about going through that process and the injections and everything else?
So I've definitely lost sleep for like 10 straight days, because I get up like 30 minutes before I have to leave.
If that.
If that, and because work's like 10 minutes down the road. So literally like the first couple days I was like going strong, and I'd come downstairs and I'd draw up all the medications and the syringes, and then I'd give it to Ryan, and we'd... Yeah.
But let's take a time out right there.
Oh.
When the idea of doing these injections at home by yourself, first off, I did every single injection.
Yeah.
Didn't think I had that in me, but I did every single injection. Proud to say that.
Yeah, good job.
But it is very intimidating, because you can probably describe it in medical terms much better than I can, but it's not like these are pre-packaged syringes and you just like do the shot.
No,
like,
there's some like science into it, because
right.
You have to measure. I think we had like 150 mLs of one injection, but you had to draw it from a vial, and then you had to mix it with the saline, basically, because there were some powders, and then there was just a lot of calculating and a lot of science into that, and thankfully I have that medical background to do that. But I could not give the injections to myself. Like, more power to the women that can handle that and do it themselves. I have a really high pain threshold, but I work myself up so much that I cannot do it. And even when he was giving it to me, like, it didn't hurt that bad, but I made it worse, I think. Like, I worked myself up, like, really bad, but
right.
He did a really good job doing it. And
so anyhow, so the process, you're on the meds usually, depending upon how the woman responds,
right.
Anywhere from 7 to 10 days. So
the sizes of the eggs,
right.
Pretty much.
So basically the way it works is, as soon as we started doing the stems, you basically had an appointment every day or every other day.
Yeah, I think I was going in like the first, like we did a baseline scan and ultrasound just to count how many follicles, which that's what the scientific word is, follicles.
The follicles hold the egg.
Right. And I was in on day 1, day 2, and then I went like day 4 and then day 6 or something like that. But so I was like literally going to our regular offices in Celebration, so let me get that straight. It's about a 40-minute drive without traffic, and those appointments to get the 7 a.m. were really hard because it's like short notice to get those scheduled. So I was actually driving to Winter Park, which was like an hour and 10 minutes, and I'm fighting like I-4 traffic. So I was literally getting up at like 5 a.m. every morning to make the 7 o'clock a.m. appointment all the way in Winter Park. So I did that for literally 10 days straight.
Right, and then basically, so when she has these appointments, what they're doing is they usually do blood work and they do an ultrasound.
Right.
So the ultrasound, they're trying to figure out how many follicles she has. What are the size of the follicles? So that's kind of that process. Yeah. And then basically based off those results on a daily basis, they kind of tinker with the med plan. So they might reduce this drug and increase this drug. So it's very much
a lot of work. It was tedious.
Right.
And having to write down like what was given, what wasn't given, and then having to communicate with the nurses constantly.
Yeah, and my fear all along was most of the time you are a very loving, caring wife. I was very concerned that these hormones would just make her like psychotic. Like I was legitimately concerned of how it's already stressful enough, and then like if she turns into a psychopath along the way, like how am I going to deal with that? Right. And I think, to give you all the credit, I think you were fine, right? Mm-hmm. Like we had one breakdown day, and basically what happened is we got to like day 7 or day 8, and we ran out of meds, and all the meds come next day aired, like shipped in a cooler basically. When you pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for the drugs, they should be next day aired in a cooler if you ask me. But so anyhow, we ran out of meds of one particular med, and then we went into the morning.
But they told us not to order.
Right. No, they told us we were good.
Yeah.
So then she went to the appointment, and then based off the results, they said, "Oh, you need to order more meds." So we ordered more meds.
Right.
Right? And I think that particular order was going to get us for the next 3 days, and it was $500 on the dot.
I think that appointment was at like 7 in the morning. I saw the nurse, and then I get the call at 12, and they're like, you need to order your drugs. And I'm like, okay. So we order the drugs, and then I get an email that night saying, and you have to put the order in by 2 o'clock, so you have to wait till the next day. So I get the email at like 4 o'clock the exact same day, and she's like, oh, never mind, you don't need those meds. We already paid the $500, and they were already on their way shipping from Miami. So I'm calling the pharmacy, and they're like, you can deny them at the door, and then we'll get a refund or something. But we wouldn't even get our full refund. We'd like lose out like $150 or something. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can handle that. So the next day, since I work close from lunch or, whatever from my office, I was like, okay, I'll come home for lunch and I'll catch the mailman or whoever. And now I'm on the phone with Ryan, and I don't know what we were doing. We were trying to do some kind of scheduling, and Gadget's barking. She's going nuts, and I don't know why she's going nuts. And I'm on the phone, and I'm like crying because like the nurse is on the other line, and she's telling me like I don't need to do a trigger. I need to do a pre-op appointment like the next day. Gadget's barking because U.S. Postal Service or FedEx is at the door, and they delivered the cooler, and I'm on the phone with the nurse crying, and I miss it, and so I'm like freaking out that we just lost out on $500 because they said they weren't going to take the drugs back, because even if they were unopened, which is bullcrap, because they're going to take it back.
Yeah. So to kind of sum that up, what we ended up doing with those meds, we sent them back. They charged us a $50 disposal fee per drug, so that was $100 because there was 2 drugs. So we received $400 of the $500 back. So we lost $100 there.
Plus some.
Yeah, plus some, because I guess we had a nurse mix up.
Yeah.
Or something. But Anyhow, so stems went pretty well all along, going through the
Great sizes.
They're monitoring her. Her body was responding very well. At the end of the stem cycle, she ended up with 18 follicles.
Right.
Which that was great. Right? Like we thought that was great. Our doctor thought that was great. Ultrasound tech, nurse, everyone told us that was great. So we're really happy.
Right.
18 follicles. So the night before retrieval, basically where they go in and retrieve all those eggs that her body has produced, we had to do what's called a trigger shot. So
which we didn't have to do.
We didn't have to do.
No, we did like Lupron or something.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So basically what the nurse came back and said was...
We ordered something and we didn't need that too.
Right, but I believe what ended up happening was they knew it was their mistake and it cost us $100 for the drug mix-up. So they provided us with a trigger is what ended up happening.
Right.
You had to drive to Winter Park, pick up the trigger early in the morning. We did, and they say of all the shots, the trigger is the most important. And to kind of give a little more information on that, with our case, I think we had to do it like exactly 8:45 p.m. or something, right?
Right.
So, but that trigger, what that trigger does is it basically tells her body, okay, all these eggs are in her. How did you feel at that point with 18 eggs in you?
I was in pain. Like I literally had to lay down. Like even at my office, like I was like planking, like in my chair. I was just like this, trying to stay flat because I swear, like I had like, they call it like bushel of grapes. Like I felt like I had just a bushel of grapes here and here. Like I was just so swollen and uncomfortable. I could only wear like sweatpants. Like it was uncomfortable and painful.
Right. So we administer the injection at like 8:45 or whatever we're supposed to do.
Like 24 hours.
That tells her body, okay, basically you're forcing ovulation
a release,
at that point.
Yeah.
So it tells the body to go ahead and release those eggs from the actual follicles. So that way we go in the next morning at like 7 a.m. or whatever it was, her body's ready to release those follicles and the doctor can go in and retrieve them.
Right.
Right? I think, so on retrieval day, right, I remember doing like all these crazy superstitious type things of going and getting pineapple, right? Because like pineapple's big in the IVF community. You're supposed to wish you good luck, and there's French fries, and there's all these different things you're supposed to do to help that process, right?
For that moves for the transfer.
That's true.
But you did get flowers.
Right. So anyhow, that doesn't matter. But so we wake up that morning, we go over, and
I laid down in the back seat all the way there because I couldn't sit normal. Like
right. So you were in pain.
Yeah, like I had a pillow between my legs, and I was laying in the back seat on the way to the office, and we get checked in, and which is scary because I had to do anesthesia, and I've never had that before. I've never been under. So I guess
Dr. Stoner. The name of the anesthesiologist was Dr. Stoner.
Which is funny.
I kid you not.
He was a nice guy.
I thought that was funny.
But like I check in, and it's a 2-story building. So like the surgery center is downstairs and the doctor's office is upstairs. So we both check in, and they're like, "Oh, Ryan, you can't be here. You need to go upstairs and give your sample." So I'm freaking out because now I have to be by myself, and I've never had a surgery. I've never broken a bone. I've never done any of this stuff, and I'm doing it by myself. So Ryan has to go upstairs and do the sample. They take me in, and they're like, "Oh, we need to do a pregnancy test." And I'm like, "Haha, funny." So I had to pee in a cup, and then they walked me to a like line of beds with curtains and all the other women that are doing the same thing that day. And they're like, "Okay, I want you to put a gown on, put a cap on, put the booties on." And I'm freaking out because Ryan's not there for anything, and I'm in pain too. So like I'm uncomfortable, I'm like emotional, and I'm like I started crying, I think, because I was sitting there by myself, and I think they like gave me
and you're pumped full of hormones.
Yeah, like it was horrible. I think, what did they give me? Something to relax too. It's like some kind of anxiety, lorazepam or something, I think they gave me. And then they started the sedation, not yet, and I was like, "Can my husband come in?" And they're like, "Yeah, we'll go get him." And I'm like tearing up. I don't even know why I'm crying because I don't really cry. And I was like, "Bye, I love you," kind of thing.
Yeah. So basically, while that's all going on, they tell me, okay, Mr. Adams, you're needed, I don't remember if it was upstairs or downstairs, but to provide my genetic material for this baby making equation, and which is terribly awkward, right? And it's not like anything you see in the movies where like they go in there.
There's not porn on the
right.
TV, or there's no magazines.
No, it's like you just gotta figure it out, make it happen.
Bring me your headphones, an iPad, or whatever.
Yeah, so a slight side story. Again, my only role in this is that sample. Well, the night before, the retrieval was on Friday night, Friday morning. Thursday nights, pretty religiously, I play basketball. And Thursday night I played ball, and I took a knee to the
testicle.
To the testicles, basically. And I never told Terry this, but in my head, I'm panicked that like I've basically destroyed all my swimmers. Like, I'm going to ruin our cycle because I played basketball, took a shot below the belt, and now like I'm sacrificing I'm gonna ruin our entire cycle. So like that's in my head the whole time. I'm trying to do this sample, and so anyhow, so we get that taken care of. They bring me back upstairs. I check up on Terry, and she's like a basket case, like she's saying. She never cries, but yet like at this point she is crying.
Like
she's
just
very
bawling.
upset.
It was bad.
Right. So they kind of told me, Mr. Adams, you got to go back to the waiting room. They wheel her back. Like, she's emotional. I'm emotional. It's just like a lot going on.
Yeah.
Right. So then the results. Right. They wheel her back in.
I don't remember anything.
Yeah. So they wheel her back in, and she's just like bawling her eyes out.
I'm waking up crying.
She wakes up and she's crying, bawling her eyes out, and I'm like, "What's wrong? Are you hurt? Did they hurt you?" She's like, "I don't know," and just crying.
I was in pain though.
Yeah, I'm sure you were in pain. Yeah. I mean, they went inside of her and into the ovaries,
and
right? And pulled out all the eggs, and I'm sure that's very painful. But she was a mess, and I'm like trying to console her, and at the same time, I'm really curious what's going on with the doctor and how was the results. So they wheel her in, and they tell us, or they tell me, because Terry was not paying attention, or was not coherent. And they say, Terry, you did great. We got 13 eggs. 13 eggs, right? And if I'm being 100% honest and pull back the curtain, I was disappointed. I shouldn't have been, but at that point I'm disappointed.
Like, what happened to the other 5?
What happened to the other 5? All the tests and the ultrasounds showed 18. There's 18 follicles, which produce 18 eggs. What happened to the rest of the eggs? And hindsight 2020, like I've learned that that type of loss is normal, right? So anyhow, we retrieved 13 eggs, which we, again, now knowing we should be very happy.
Yeah.
13 eggs is great. Those are great responses. But on the day of, we're like, what the heck happened, right? So we have 13 eggs, and once they extract those out, we used a fertilization method of ICSI. I'll kind of put something up over there to kind of break down what ICSI is. But basically what they do is again, this is a very scientific approach, so we wanted to use all the science possible. With ICSI, they're going to extract one individual sperm from my sample and inject directly into the egg. They're basically forcing fertilization of the egg.
The traditional way.
Right, the traditional way is basically you would put the egg in a petri dish and like shoot some sperm around it and just like let nature take its course, and hopefully the best swimmer gets there and everything works out, right? But there's too much money invested in it. The science is there, so why not take advantage of it? So that's what we did. We used ICSI fertilization. So what happens is you get a call the next day from the office to say how many of those eggs fertilized. So again,
and we did the genetic testing, if you're going to get into that too.
That's true, but we'll get there, okay. I guess. So we had 13 eggs that we retrieved, and we get a call the next day of how many fertilized. And how many fertilized her?
7? 7 and then 5, right?
No. So 13 were retrieved. Of those 13, only 7 of those were mature.
Mature, okay.
So again, we basically got cut in half right there. So we went from 13 eggs retrieved.
We went from 18,
to
13
to 7.
Yeah.
So of the 7 eggs that were mature, only 5 of those fertilized.
Right.
Which is what they called and told us the next day. So now we know, again, there's that breakdown. 18, 13, 7, 5. So at this point, we're only really 24 hours into the process, and we're feeling fairly defeated.
Yeah, we're just like...
At least I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I felt very defeated because we've... it just seemed like the numbers were just being cut in half.
Dwindling down.
Every step we went through, the numbers were being cut in half.
Yeah.
So now 5 have fertilized, and now it's time for the 5-day wait, right?
Yeah.
5-day wait. And so the 5-day wait is basically they put those embryos, because at this point they're embryos. They've taken the sperm, they've taken the egg, they've come together, they've fertilized, so now we're going to call that an embryo.
Right.
So they take those embryos, they sit them in an incubator, they leave them for 5 days, they don't touch them. In years past, they would check them daily and update you, but they said that often that would hurt the embryos or you'd lose embryos in that process, so they stopped doing it. So they just check them at day 5. So day 5 comes along, and we are anxiously awaiting that call. We finally get the call, and only of those 5 embryos,
2.
only 2 made it to day 5.
Which they called blastocysts.
Blastocysts embryos.
Yeah.
Right, and so basically what happens is, from a scientific approach, the cells from day 1, they continue to divide and multiply, and you want those cells to continue to multiply up until day 5, and once we got to day 5, only 2 embryos had continued to multiply and become a blastocyst embryo. So Terry mentioned PGS testing. So this is the next hurdle, right? So the PGS testing is basically they take the embryo. They don't take any material from the actual embryo, but they take just a couple cells from the cell wall. They extract those and they send them off to a lab.
So this is 2 weeks now. We gotta wait 2 weeks
Right.
from
the 5-day
5-day
wait,
blast,
then it's
yeah.
it's a 10-day wait to get the PGS testing results back. The PGS is pre-genetic screening, I believe is what it
So
stands
we
for.
were looking for abnormalities.
Yeah, so basically what they do is they send them off to the lab, they send them